After my support network couldn't figure out why my girlfriend left, my cousin suggested trying here. So bear with a newbie at this. I, 35-year-old male, met my ex-girlfriend, 35-year-old female. My cousin said to use fake names, so I'm going to call her Mel because writing X really hurts. Of 1.5 years through my previous employer. She said she was interested in me before, but couldn't ask me out because she was afraid of potential policies about inter-office romances. When I gave my 2 weeks notice, she asked me out, and things have been great since. This all came crashing down after Mel met my parents and brother in person for the first time about 2 weeks ago. She talked to my parents over the phone and through video calls before, and seemed to go well. We didn't spend last Christmas with either of our families because we felt it was too intense. But we discussed things, and she was going to come meet my family in my home city, and we would meet hers next month in her home city. Dinner went pretty smoothly. Mom and Mel got on well. Dad and brother didn't really care because they were too immersed with watching sports. I was with them most of the time except for after dinner when I went to the bathroom, but it seemed like nothing had changed. So we came home, and when I dropped Mel off, she sat in the seat and told me that we shouldn't see each other anymore. It hurt. I was so confused and asked why. What did I do wrong, and did something happen? She just said it was her issue and not my fault. And that was that. I've cried and drank, but somehow managed to get through the last couple of weeks with some help. But I really don't know why she would just leave out of the blue. If she'd been pondering it for a while, why agree to meet with my family? I don't think my family would intimidate her. They have the same background as her parents, blue-collar working-class families. And I don't think my brother would have said or done anything. He hates interpersonal communication outside of work and family. I trust him, and he is asexual as well. I have not told my parents about our breakup, and, outside of me, she has no connection to my family. I want to get to the bottom of this. I tried texting, and she hasn't blocked me, but said that this was her decision and she wants to work through things alone. I'll admit I'm not happy, but I suspected that my parents might have said something to her. So I called my brother. Thankfully, he is quite clueless, and asked what he thought about Mel. He said she was nice. I asked what he, Mom, and Dad talked about after dinner, which includes the time I was in the bathroom. And he said that my mom was just excited to finally meet her in person and glad to see that she made me happy. Mel knows that I have another brother who is married and a sister who is single. So my mom wouldn't have said something like, "I'm finally glad to have a daughter." They also don't know what she does for a living, only that we met through work. She was an administrative assistant at the company. I don't think she would be intimidated by my family. My other brother and sister are educated, but my younger brother took over my dad's metalworking company after he retired. I've gone through over every possible outcome. Is she cheating? I don't think so, because we do have access to each other's phones and she hasn't done anything suspicious. Like go to random drinks night with coworkers. If she lost interest, why wait until meeting my parents? Why spend the money on the airplane ticket to meet them? Did she find someone else she liked and was waiting? I don't think she would be the kind of person to string me along like that. The relationship was fairly new enough that she could have just cut ties. I cannot figure it out for the life of me, so I'm maybe foolishly taking my cousin's advice and asking the internet, of all places, of potential reasons Mel would leave me. I really want her back, and if I did make a mistake, I at least want a chance to fix it. How can I find out why she's leaving me? So I can find out how I can fix things. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that I had one other long-term relationship that was 2.5 years. Mel knows about her and that she was the only other woman I have been intimate with. But my family would have never brought her up because they hate her. Also, she knows that my brother and sister both have white-collar jobs, and so do their spouses. Both have kids, so I don't think she would be pressured into thinking that there is pressure for us to give my parents their first grandkids, since they have 5 already. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I don't know why she broke up with you. I'm going to assume you don't live together and haven't had to split household chores and responsibilities. But what she saw was the men in the family hanging out and watching TV, while the women were in the kitchen making dinner, which is an issue. She most likely wants an active partner, not a dude who expects the women in the family to do all the work while the men get to sit, eat, and make the women do all the work. She saw a glimpse of her future, which is you and your family expecting her to do all the work while y'all relax and have fun. She saw a future where she's working full-time and having to handle all the invisible labor and childcare decisions. She saw a future in which she believes you will not be an equal partner because you couldn't get off your butt and help your mother when you bring a guest into her household. Comment 2. Mom and Mel got along well. Dad and brother didn't really care because they were too immersed with watching sports. I was with them most of the time. Mel got a glimpse of the family dynamic and disliked it. She did not want to sign up for a relationship where you think it's acceptable for the boys to relax in front of the TV while the girls work. You have probably dropped hints that you expect a traditional relationship, and she is not up for it. She doesn't want to debate you because it's a whole load of drama with not much outcome for her. Now for the update. Thanks for the support on my last post. It's been a very eventful week, and I've got to get this off my chest. After the shock of Mel leaving, I was a mess. I couldn't eat or sleep. Just kept replaying that night over and over. I had to know why she left. It was eating me alive, so I did something I'm not proud of. I went through her phone. I know, it's a violation of trust, but I was desperate. I found nothing. No secret texts, no calls to an unknown number, nothing. It was a dead end, and I felt even worse for doing it. I was at the bar with my cousin, the one who suggested I post here, and I told him about the phone snooping. He was disappointed in me, said that wasn't the way to handle things. He's right, of course. But then he said something that hit me like a ton of bricks. What if it's not about what you did, but what you didn't do? That got me thinking. I started to reflect on our relationship, the little things. Mel always talked about wanting to travel, see the world. She had this dream of backpacking across Europe. I was more of a stay-at-home guy, content with the occasional road trip. I never really took her dreams seriously. I guess I always thought there'd be time for that later. Then, 2 days ago, I got a call from Mel's best friend. She never really liked me. Always thought Mel could do better. But she called to tell me Mel had been in an accident. Nothing serious, just a fender bender, but it shook her up. I went to see her despite everything. When I got there, she was visibly shaken, but okay, we talked, really talked, for the first time since the breakup. She admitted that meeting my family made her realize how different our worlds were. She saw my life, my future, all laid out, and it scared her. She didn't want the white picket fence life yet. She wanted adventure, and she didn't think I could give her that. I told her about my snooping, expecting her to be furious, but she wasn't. She said it showed I cared, even if it was a messed up way of showing it. We both laughed, and it felt like old times. That's when I made a decision. I told her I wanted to make her dreams come true. I suggested we take that trip to Europe she always talked about. I could see the hesitation in her eyes, but also a spark of the old Mel, the one who dreamed of adventure. She didn't say yes right away. She needed time to think, to trust that I meant what I said. But yesterday she called me. She said if I was serious, she'd give us another chance. She warned me it wouldn't be easy, that we'd have to work on our relationship, but she was willing to try if I was. So, we're planning the trip. It's going to be tight financially, and I'll have to take a leave from work, but it feels right. I'm scared, excited, and a million other things. But I'm also hopeful. For the first time in weeks, I feel like things might just work out. Thanks for reading. My wife threatens to give up our long-awaited baby for adoption because I can't keep the house clean. So I drop out of school to show her she and our baby are my world. My wife and I tried getting pregnant for almost 3 years, as long as we've been married, and finally succeeded in February of this year. She's about 8 weeks along now and has had many of the harshest symptoms and intense discomfort to the point of frequent exhaustion and rarely the ability to stand for long or be out of the house much. She was searching for a job when we conceived, and we agreed she should stay home while dealing with harsh symptoms, rather than attempt to work while sick. I currently work 40 hours while attending online school for an associate's degree. and try to donate plasma to supplement income. I've done my best to bring her or get her anything she needs, take her to doctor appointments, or give massages and support her physically. I'm also with her for all of my time outside of working, donating, or doing homework. She's let me know I need to support her by handling the household responsibilities that she's not able to do, such as vacuuming the house and cleaning our room, cleaning our bathroom, and wiping down the kitchen. I already handled most of the responsibility of our husky beforehand. I admit that I often struggled to keep up with my part prior to the pregnancy, such as keeping up with dishes and folding our laundry after washing them on a regular schedule. And I understand the added stress from them not being fully completed regularly. I also admit to claiming I will improve on my handling of them, but recognize I still don't always keep up with it all. She recently let me know that me failing to follow through on all of the chores and not completing them fully has led her to feel that I am not showing her enough support. And if I am not giving her my all, then how could I say I would do the same for our baby? She let me know that my lack of support throughout her suffering has made her believe giving the baby up for adoption is the best for them, as we would not give our child the best life if I failed to support her, and she struggles as a result. Throughout our conversation, I let her know that I'm sorry for not making her feel as supported as she deserved, and that I am willing to do all I can to help her feel that way, given that she feels so extremely, and I hadn't properly understood and adjusted accordingly before. I also told her that I didn't think threatening to give up our baby was the appropriate response to me half-assing certain chores. She said that it was appropriate given how she received no support, and it wasn't a threat, because she would be talking to the doctor about her options. She eventually agreed to give it until the 25-week mark to judge my improvement on the matter. After the conversation, I'm left feeling somewhat unappreciated for what I have done to support her so far, but mostly conflicted that she feels the best choice for our situation is to threaten adoption. Any advice on the situation at all, or for approaching how I feel her claim was extreme, is appreciated. Edit. After talking with my wife further, it's clear that she's dealing with deeper mental health trouble, and it's our priority to talk with her doctor about them to address the root of some of our issues. Thank you to all who have given honest advice on the situation. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. This seems like an extreme reaction. First, why would 22-year-olds with no education or well-paying jobs be trying so hard to have kids? That's poor decision-making. You're taking steps to improve things by going to school. That's great, but kids can wait. Also, your wife sounds either like she's having mental health issues or she's just too immature to be doing this right now. I just hope other young people reading this learn something from it. Comment 2. Side note, while it is illegal in a lot of countries to discriminate against hiring someone who is pregnant, that doesn't mean it doesn't happen, and she may have trouble finding employment. If you are selling plasma to make rent, you guys have some serious financial issues. Why were you guys trying to have a baby when your life is pretty unstable? Now, for the update. Thanks for sticking around for this update. Things have been, well, very eventful. So, the job hunt for my wife was put on hold, right? Well, that was until her old boss called her out of the blue. He offered her a position that was too good to pass up, even with the pregnancy. She was torn, but she took it. The job's remote, but the hours are unpredictable. And it's been tough on her. She's been working late, and the exhaustion's only gotten worse. Meanwhile, I've been trying to pick up the slack at home. I've gotten better with the chores, but it's like as soon as I get one thing under control, something else falls apart. The sink clogged up last week, and I spent hours trying to fix it. I missed an assignment deadline because of that mess. Then, our husky got sick. I mean, really sick. Vet visits, medication, the works. It's been draining our savings, which were already taking a hit with the extra medical bills, and now my wife's new job expenses. We're both stressed, and it's like we're just taking turns having breakdowns. But here's where it gets really complicated. My wife's doctor found something concerning at her last checkup. They're worried about complications, and suddenly, we're facing this decision about whether to go through with some risky procedure that could help. But it's expensive and not guaranteed. We're talking about the kind of money that could put us in debt for years. I've been trying to be there for her, but I can feel her pulling away. She's scared, and I get it, but it's like she's convinced that I can't handle this, that I'm not strong enough. And maybe she's right. I've been so focused on trying to keep everything afloat that I didn't see how much she's been struggling on her own. The other night, we had this huge fight. She said that maybe her mom was right, that we jumped into this whole family thing too fast. That hit me hard. I've always known her mom didn't think I was good enough for her daughter, but hearing that from my wife, it felt like a punch in the gut. I've been talking to a buddy of mine, trying to figure out what to do. He suggested I take on some extra work, maybe driving for a rideshare service at night. It's not ideal, but what choice do I have? We need the money, and I need to show my wife that I can step up. So I started driving at night. It's exhausting, and I barely see my wife now. But the extra cash has been a lifeline. We're still behind on some bills, but at least we're not sinking as fast. Then, out of nowhere, my wife's condition worsened. She had to be rushed to the hospital. I was in the middle of a ride when I got the call. I dropped everything and sped to the hospital. She was in so much pain, and all I could do was hold her hand and try to keep it together. The doctors managed to stabilize her, but they said she needs to be on bed rest for the foreseeable future. No work, no stress. But how can she not stress? We're drowning here. And that's when she said it. She told me she's been thinking about the adoption thing again. She said it's not fair to bring a child into this mess. I couldn't believe it. After everything, she's still thinking about giving up our baby? I was angry, hurt, but then I looked at her, really looked at her. She's terrified. She's trying to do what she thinks is best for our child, even if it breaks her heart. And mine. I told her we'd figure it out, that we'd get through this together. But deep down, I'm not so sure. I'm scared too. I'm scared of losing my wife, my child, everything. But I made a decision. I'm going to take a leave of absence from school. My family needs me now more than ever, and it's going to set me back. But what's the point of a degree if I lose them in the process? So that's where we're at. I'm working, driving, doing chores, and now taking care of my wife full time. It's not easy, but it's what I have to do. I just hope it's enough. Thanks for reading. It means a lot to have someone listen. My fiance's rich parents expect me to pay for our wedding. So I reject their trust fund and show them money can't buy control. I, 28-year-old female, am marrying my partner, 31-year-old male of 4 years next year, and am very excited. My family does pretty okay financially right now, but haven't always and still have a lot of debt. They pitched in as much as they could, but we live in a pretty big metropolitan area, and things are expensive. We need about $10,000 to $15,000 more to pull something together that both families will be happy with. My fiance's parents are very well off. They're also Southern, socially conservative, and quite frankly, old. My mother-in-law clearly has old money expectations for this event. She suggests ridiculously expensive caterers, and even pushed for us to choose the single most expensive venue in our entire state. We explained to them our budget constraints, and that we were covering a large portion of the event ourselves, as my parents can't really afford to pay for an entire wedding. They still firmly believe that only the bride's family should pay for the wedding, so they've offered no help. The problem is that this tradition stems from the idea that the man is going to financially support his wife, and our situation is the opposite. We live in a house I bought myself, and I charge my fiance reduced rent. He pays about 1/3 of the mortgage, and I pay 2/3. This costs me around $3,000 a year above charging 50/50ths to him or another roommate. We've been living together for 3 years. I also pay for most extra stuff we do, like meals out and trips. This arrangement allowed him to go back to school to switch careers, build a savings on a small entry-level salary, and stay afloat after being laid off. I'm so proud of his hard work, and I'm genuinely just happy I am in a position to help the person I love. But even with all this growth, I'm always going to be the breadwinner, and I've already spent probably about $10,000 directly on his living expenses. It just feels unbelievably shitty to stand in a house that every home I've ever lived in could fit in 3 times over after financially supporting their son for years and be told I'm not going to receive help. I put so much time, energy, and money into helping their kid turn his life around and spare them from having to help him. And it feels like instead of being appreciative, they're draining more from me. Big let them eat cake vibes. They paid at least $50,000 for his sister's wedding in 2007, and we'd be thrilled with like $5,000. Am I being entitled, or is this unfair? What does it take to drag an old lady who would have voted in Reagan for a third term into 2024? Please read the edit before commenting edit. Thank you all for the input. I think I wasn't clear in that we can totally afford the wedding we want. Nobody is going into debt over this. Everyone is fine. We can't afford the wedding she wants. I felt like the best compromise would be his family chips in, and we step it up a little bit. She also has this sister she's weirdly competitive with, and her children's weddings were lavish. I just know the emotional come down is coming, and I wanted to avoid it. I thought the angle of reminding his parents how much I've put into their son's life would help get us there sooner without all the nonsense. But you guys are right. The only direction to go is no pay, no say, and just deal with whatever goes down. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, you don't. It's their money and their choice. But then, they should have no say in the wedding planning. I would stop people-pleasing and have a wedding that you can afford without any help, or at least without his parents. It's your and your husband's day. Comment 2, you don't. You plan the wedding you can afford and you and your fiancé are happy with. And his parents are guests that come. And if they're so old-fashioned and polite, then they will smile graciously and pretend it's up to their standards. Now, for the update. Thanks for sticking with me on this journey. So, here's what went down recently. 3 days ago, I got a call from my fiancé's mom. She wanted to have a serious talk about the wedding. I braced myself for another round of her pushing for extravagance we couldn't afford. But this time, she dropped a bombshell. She confessed that they had a trust fund set aside for my fiancé's wedding since he was born. The catch? It was only accessible if we followed a set of traditions they had in mind, which included a lavish ceremony at that expensive venue she'd been eyeing. I was torn. On one hand, this could solve all our financial worries for the wedding. On the other, it felt like selling out our values and giving in to her controlling ways. My fiancé was equally shocked and upset. He had no idea about the trust fund and felt betrayed by the strings attached. The next day, I found out my parents had been scrimping and saving to give us a surprise gift to help with the wedding costs. They'd managed to put together $2,000, which was a fortune for them. I was moved to tears by their sacrifice, but it also made me realize that accepting his parents' money would be a slap in their faces. Yesterday, my fiancé and I had a long, hard talk. We decided to reject the trust fund. It was a tough choice, but we agreed that our wedding should reflect who we are, not what his parents wanted. We told them our decision, and as expected, it didn't go down well. His mom accused us of being ungrateful and disrespectful. But then, something unexpected happened. My fiancé stood up to her in a way I'd never seen before. He told her that while he appreciated the offer, our integrity wasn't for sale. He reminded her of all the support I'd given him, and how we were a team that made decisions together. Today, we're moving forward with our original plans, a bit tighter on the budget, but with our heads held high. We're focusing on what matters most, celebrating our love with those who truly support us. It's not going to be the wedding his mom envisioned, but it will be ours, and that's what counts. Thanks for reading. It means a lot. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.